This is Chapter 11, Biodiversity and Conservation Biology. We're going to start on page 271. So the words you have to know are biodiversity, which is the variation of different types of species in an area, and species. In order for two organisms to be a part of the same species, they have to be able to mate and produce fertile offspring. So down here, if we look at this figure, make sure you know all of these terms: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity is the diversity within individuals, their genes, and even within the same species are going to be a little different. And that variation is good because it allows a population to withstand an environmental stressor. So if the environment gets too hot or too dry, or if there's a disease that starts wiping out the population, it's not going to affect, or it shouldn't affect, every single individual. Some individuals will have genes that allow them to survive, and that's good because they can pass those genes on to the next generation, and that might make them resistant, or that might make them more fit for the environment. And they may evolve. And species and ecosystem diversity. So know those. We're going to flip over to page 273. This figure is important. Know this figure, this caption about species richness and latitudinal gradient. So species richness refers to the amount of biodiversity present, how many organisms or how many types of species there are in an area. And so as we go down towards the equator, what you see are more and more different types of species. So remember, here near the equator it's hot and there's a lot of precipitation. So there's going to be more primary productivity, more vegetation, more different types of vegetation growing at a faster rate. In hotter temperatures, reactions happen faster. And then you're also going to have more animal species and other types of organism species. And as we go away from the equator towards the poles, generally you're going to see less species richness or less biodiversity. There's a couple of spots of biodiversity hotspots, but generally speaking, that's that rule of latitudinal gradient. And what's important to note is that ecosystems with many different types of species are more likely to recover from disruptions. So it's generally good to have more biodiversity. And so we're going right on to benefits of biodiversity. There are many benefits. And so just know over the next couple of pages, they actually talk about all of these benefits, so know them. For food security, a lot of crops, the regular person hasn't tried that many crops. Usually what we get in the store is a very limited amount, but there are a lot of crops out there that have a lot of nutritional benefits that we haven't discovered or the normal person just doesn't know about. So food security, drugs and medicines, a lot of the drugs and medicines that we have, they come from plants. And a lot of these plants that have potential to be medicines, and we haven't figure that out yet. So if they go extinct, or if some of these foods go extinct that we haven't discovered the potential for, then that could be detrimental to us because they could help cure diseases and illnesses. And ecosystem resilience, and then also tourism and recreation. So all of these provide us with economic benefits as well as ecological benefits. So if we go over here, there's a little bit more about ecosystem services. There's actually 4 categories of ecosystem services. So when I first introduced ecosystem services, we didn't talk about these, but we will now. So there's provisional, and those types of services are products that we get. So food, wood, water, medicine, we can all use these economically as well as helping us just survive. Also, energy is provisional. Regulating, which helps us with some examples are climate regulation, pollination, and flood control. So these are more of processes. They are processes that help us that we don't really think about, we don't pay for, but they're there, and without them, it would be bad. cultural, recreation, education, spiritual, any of those types of things. And then supporting services are, these services actually help form these. So for example, soil formation helps with flood control and then helps retain that water, but it also helps grow food. Habitats, they help pollination, they also help create wood, water, medicine. So supporting does exactly that. It supports these other ecosystem services, but they're a little bit broader. So these are not in your book, but you still have to know these and some examples. And then these are some other ecosystem services that biodiversity provides us with. So know those. And all of these right here, these charts are really interesting because they tell us about some food sources, pharmaceutical drug potentials, like on page 275, this velvet bean helps us produce a drug that helps suppress Parkinson's disease. There's one that helps protect against cancer, autumn crocus. So these are very important. And then these are some amphibians that help protect, not amphibians, animals that help protect us against different things. So if you read about this, or please do, it's very, very interesting. So for now, we're done with chapter 11, but we're going to go over to chapter 12, just 2 pages. So go ahead and go to page 323 on chapter 12. We're kind of merging this in because it doesn't warrant its own video. So you have to know island biogeography theory. So these are the tenets of the theory. And so if we look down at this picture, it helps us explain what that theory is. So what it says is that, what it states is that the farther away an island is, the less biodiverse it will be. Because the closer an island is, the easier it is for organisms from a mainland to get on the island. So again, the closer an island is to a mainland, the more biodiverse it's going to be, because it's easier for organisms to hop from here to the mainland to the island. And the farther away a island is from the mainland, the less biodiverse it'll be. So distance affects biodiversity of an island, and then also the size of the island. If the island is larger, then there's going to be more biodiversity because there's more space for species to live in and to evolve in. And then, and larger islands have lower extinction rates because they have more space in them. And then something else to note is that many island species evolved to be specialists because of the limited amounts of resources on their island. They don't need to be generalists generally because they don't have the plethora of resources that generalists might have around them. So they don't need to, they don't have a need to eat many different things or adapt to be able to live in many different environments. And so invasive species can threaten island species because exactly that, because they're more likely to be specialists. And island biogeography theory can also be applied to land. So national parks, flip over to page 326. National parks are habitat islands because they're usually present in the midst of agricultural land and urban development areas. So they're kind of like little islands. So the larger that national park is, and there's been studies on this, the more biodiverse it is. The smaller it is, the less biodiverse. And if it's closer to another habitat like it, it's more likely to be more biodiverse. So national parks or land can also apply to the island biogeography theory. Over here, know this loss debate, and it's the single large or several small debate. So should we have many small areas of biodiversity or conservational areas, or should we have one large area? And then corridors can help animals travel between islands of habitats. There will be corridors that look like this. Sometimes they're underground, and they help animals survive and not get hit by cars. Alright, that is all for this video.